Welcome everybody to the 9th annual Innocence Network Wrongful Conviction Day Awareness Campaign, where each year around this time, we set aside an effort to raise awareness about the nuances and complexities that cause wrongful convictions in the first place. We're happy to be a part of this year's live stream as we bring you this segment titled From Client to Colleague, Meet the Not So New Faces. I want to start off by introducing who we are. My name is Ricky Kidd, wrongfully convicted for 23 years out of the state of Missouri, serving life without the possibility of parole until the Midwest Innocence Project, Professor Sean O'Brien, attorney Cindy Dodge all came to my aid and rescue. August 15th, 2019, I was finally released and returned back to my family and my community. Since then, I've become a voice for those who are voiceless. I've become an advocate as well as a colleague, fighting on the behalf of those who also believe that innocent people should be freed. This is who I am. Rodney?
Hello. Happy Wrongful Conviction Day. My name is Rodney Roberts. I was wrongfully convicted in a prison in New Jersey, where I was sentenced to a 7-year term that turned into a life sentence. I was exonerated through DNA evidence in 2014 after fighting vigorously for my freedom against all odds. Upon my release, the passion to help others, the passion to see that justice is served, and the passion to see families united was my goal. And as a result of fighting in the front line, working with the Innocence Project, they hired me as a reentry coach. So I went from client to colleague. And today, I'm happy to be a part of the struggle. Anna?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Vasquez, and I was wrongfully convicted in 1998 and spent 13 years in prison for a crime that never even occurred. Today, I am an advocate for the voiceless. I am also a part of the organization that once helped to set me free, which was the Innocence Project of Texas. I serve as their outreach and education director, and that is how I became client to colleague. Sean?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Ellis. I am the subject of the docuseries on Netflix Trial 4. I am also an exoneree from the state of Massachusetts that was wrongfully convicted at the age of 19 and spent 22 years in prison. It was with the help of my attorneys, Rosemary Scarpicio and Jaleese McDonough, along with the support of the CPCS Innocent Program, that I was released from prison in 2015. Finally, in 2021, I was cleared of all charges, and thereafter became part of the staff of the New England Innocent Project as the project coordinator of the Exoneree Network, which I, along with 2 other exonerees, co-founded. I am also a social justice advocate and a motivational speaker, and that is who I am. Heidi?
Thank you, Sean. And I want to welcome everyone to this Wrongful Conviction Day live stream, and thank you for sharing this space with us. Who am I? My name is Heidi Goodwin. I'm a freed client of the Washington Innocence Project. In 2006, I was wrongfully convicted and spent 8.5 years in the state of Washington, wrongfully incarcerated, before I was released in 2014. My case went to the appellate court, the higher courts in the state, and was overturned in 2016 unanimously. However, I still remain a free client and am not fully exonerated. Spoiler alert, we have been in strategic talks with my attorneys about picking up that torch and continuing on with the case. And so hopefully I will join my peers as an exoneree in the near future. I'm also, for the last 2 years, the client support coordinator for the Washington Innocence Project. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means. So client support is basically exactly what it sounds like. we realized that once we were released, there was still tremendous amounts of resources that we needed. I meet our clients, my peers, where they are. A lot of it is emotional and mental support. After people are released, we find that life isn't exactly what we had planned it would be when we were inside. It doesn't always look like what we thought, especially when we've been inside for decades. And so having somebody that's been there and can actually walk you through the experiences of being released and help you find the resources that you're struggling to like find again in life is the best possible way to successfully re-entry. For me personally, the organizations I believed needed us. They need to provide support to their clients once they're released, and they need people who have that lived experience telling them what it is that we need. We know best. And so with that, I would like to pass it to Anna.
Heidi, I completely agree with you, and you being a part of the client re-entry or support, should I say. I really don't like that term, but so what I do at the Innocence Project of Texas is outreach and education. And not only is it, dealing with the clients that are transitioning out of prison and back into society, as I once did, but I like to get in there and speak to different organizations, whether it has to deal with law enforcement or continued learning education for attorneys, whether it's prosecutors or defenders. The last one that I just went to, I spoke at an investigators conference that was very enlightening. So basically what I do is education at all levels, which is completely important because I think that we need to do this. We need to be able to teach and train and give insight into what actually goes on behind a wrongful conviction. A lot of people don't really understand how complex it can be. And dealing with our clients, for one, I know firsthand, as well as you guys, that it's hard. It's not as easy as people think that it is to re-enter into society after spending so many years in prison on a wrongful conviction. And Sean, I know that you've talked a lot about this, and can you share your experience with us and what you do?
Absolutely, Anna. So before I even start, it's important that I bring a friend and colleague into the space, Ray Champagne, who we tragically lost on July 12th. Ray was and is and will forever be a co-founder of the Exonery Network. And so I just wanted to bring him into the space, and as much as we are talking about this work, because Ray's spirit kind of embodies why we do this work. And so part of what we do here in New England, for the exonerees that are coming home, is provide what we've called a New Day Fund. And the importance of the New Day Fund is it allows for us as exonerees and those who are free but fighting, it allows for us to go into a CVS or a supermarket and buy what we need without having to continue to ask permission of someone to do something. And so we try immediately to help them to feel some sort of independence financially. We also help to provide cell phones and laptops. And part of the importance of a cell phone and laptop is we're living in the information age now, where the world is literally at our fingertips. And for a lot of us who have spent a decade, 2 decades or more in prison, we're not familiar with the internet. Like when I went in 1993, there was no internet, and I couldn't even fathom the concept of an internet. And so never mind a website and using that sort of platform. So what we do is try to provide this technology to them so that they can immediately start to familiarize themselves with it. We also work to provide technology training that goes along with the cell phone and the laptop, so that they're getting familiar, and when they get to the place where they want to fill out, or even before you get to filling out the resume, if they get to the point where they want to do a job search or fill out a resume, they're able to do so. And so along with that, there's a problem that we have with navigating the social justice systems. And so we try to support in that way, as well as housing and mental health support. But one of the main important things is too, and I know I'm getting a little long-winded, and I'll cut myself short at times, but I must say these things, that one thing that we provide is a space for healing circles. And I can't understate, like I can't overstate the importance of that. But we also are working to establish a participatory defense model, because we've been supporting our brothers and sisters who are free but fighting in their fight for freedom, even after coming home, as they go back and forth into the courts. So we're getting some training around how to better be a support in that way. But Ricky, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the Midwest?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate your elaboration, because what people are hearing in the needs of those who are coming home after a wrongful conviction is coming straight from a directed, impacted individual. And it sounds like we are, once we came to the front of the line, began to dig a little deeper, scratch the surface of what was being met or what was being provided once we came home. So it really is important to understand this space, going from client to colleague. I myself here in the Midwest, I came home again August 15th, 2019. The Midwest Innocence Project, the very organization responsible for my release, gave me a job less than 30 days later. I now serve as our community engagement manager. And one of the things, or a few of the things that I do for the Midwest Innocence Project, is I engage our community on all levels, whether that's face-to-face, person-to-person, whether that's social media, whether that's meeting with our donors in person, or whether that's making donor calls, thanking those donors from a personal perspective, letting them know just how much we appreciate their support and the result of their support. There's nothing like talking to the result of your support on the other end. And so that's a part of what I do for the Midwest Innocence Project. I also do work with the local DA's office here. I sit on the community advisory board for Jackson County District Attorney's DA's office. I now have a seat at the table. A seat at the table where we get to talk about some very complex issues as it relates to wrongful convictions, but also as it relates to our community as a whole. And we focus on healing, the thing that Sean talked about as well, healing. How do we heal our community, and what responsibility that particular DA's office have? I'm also happy to be able to sit on the board of the Exoneree Policy Council for the Innocence Project. That's so important because, once again, those who are directly impacted get to have input as it relates to legislation, as it relates to policy issues, as it relates to sensitive issues that's come up from Anna, my colleague. It's come up from Sean as well, because there are also issues that are important that are being dealt with, but they might not be dealt with in the most sensitive way. And so we get to sit at the table to say, hey, as a directly impacted individual that's sensitive, you might want to consider saying it this way, or you might want to consider going about it this way. In the overall picture, we collectively become more effective when we get to do that. So happy to be a part of that council. I'm also executive board member of the Innocence Network. Very, very excited to sit on that board and once again bring the direct impact perspective to the table with great colleagues, lawyers, social workers, other individuals who've been doing this work for quite some time. And you can see once you sit at that table, the added value in a directly impacted individual is brought to the table to do that type of work. So that's what I'm doing here in the Midwest. I'm not just involved in the Midwest Innocence Project. I'm not just involved in the Innocence Network Executive Board, because with my freedom came the ability to do other work that I believe is important, that's complementary to those institutions and entities that I sit and work with. That includes doing prosecutor training now. The idea that prosecutors are our most powerful individual inside our criminal legal system, but they lack, for the most part, training as it directly relates to wrongful convictions. They lack proximity to innocence, where many of them don't believe individuals are innocent. And for those who might believe individuals are innocent, they never really had the opportunity to interact with those individuals and then go a step further to actually be trained from one of those individuals. And so my training program, The Cost of a Prosecutor's Decision, Blind Spots of True Justice, has begun to roll out. We look to see that go all across the nation, where prosecutors are influenced to see the bigger picture of how wrongful convictions happen, the pitfalls of how they happen, and ways to make sure that it doesn't happen in their backyard. And so again, as a directly impacted individual, I just want you to imagine this as I pass the ball. I am happy, so happy to be a special part or a part of this special team, this unique club that is presenting today. And I'm very excited about the work that we all get to do together looking forward. With all that being said, I want to now pass it off to my friend and my colleague, Rodney.
Hello, everyone. Once again, and we talk about what I do. What I do is help unite families. For myself, the big passion is to see families embracing themselves after a long struggle together. For me, the whole struggle was just watching my family come through the system, being mistreated, but still showing up, coming to the court, hearing some of the worst things they could have possibly heard about me, the stigmas, but still standing in my corner. And when I was released, the joy and the jubilation that I felt and the love connection I felt once I was home, released, took over me. And that became my passion. So since my release, that has become my passion, to see other families of wrongfully convicted individuals have that same united joy and jubilation. And so I have often been working behind the scenes, sometime in the forefront, using my voice, using my experience to advocate against wrongful conviction, like my colleague just spoke about, against prosecutorial misconduct, also against ineffectiveness of counsel, and mostly against coerced plea agreements. Because for me, coerced plea agreements and the plea agreement process itself is one of the most undermining conditions and situations within the criminal justice system. The plea agreement process is maybe 94 to 95% of the criminal justice system. Only like 4 to 5% of individuals go to trial. And with a statistic that high, that's horrible. That means that there's a system in place to automatically coerce and persuade individuals to move closer to the plea agreement process. The word plea agreement doesn't even appear anywhere in the Constitution. So how did it become so important in the criminal justice system? So my fight is to bring these issues to the forefront, to let people know about the struggle to reunite the families and what it looks like once you're released. Once you're released, there's a struggle to reintegrate. The struggle for reentry is very difficult. You would think that because when you're exonerated and you're free, that things will become easier. In fact, they become far more difficult for individuals to just shake the whole traumatic experience, the whole suffering, the whole abuse, the whole process of sitting in a prison cell year after year, day after day, second after second, innocent, trying to fight for your freedom, trying to get that out to the forefront, and then being looked at as if you're just like everyone else, just using that as a mantra to claim some innocence and claim some self-dignity that you should not have, when in fact, you're telling the truth. When you come home, that same truth has to be told, but in a different way. And reentry is the process is we want to think about just not the reentry of the individual, but also the reentry and the process of the family. For me and for the IP, the interest is to help the family move along as well. Because if one person is incarcerated, the whole family is incarcerated. And that means that once that process is over, the family has to be debriefed and brought up to speed to help deal and acknowledge some of the things they're going to encounter from when their loved one is home now. Some of the new personalities they may not have never seen before, because you have to adopt certain prison attitudes in order to survive there. And you bring this home with you, and you have to shake it off. But in the process of shaking off, you have to have your surrounding support system understand what you're shaking, so that they won't be disenchanted with not knowing how to help you move forward and how to help themselves let go of the traumatic experience they've been through too. And so I've been fighting for that, along with the Innocent Project here in New York and New Jersey, to make sure that all those are well served, from the wrongful convicted to the mothers, to the brothers, to the sisters, to nephews, the children. Everyone that's involved in that family structure is a concern to help that body united so that that individual can re-enter society with a more healthier support system and loveness system. So that's what I've been doing along with my colleagues. So I'll pass it to Heidi.
Thank you, Rodney. So my what and my why kind of bleed together. And my why really started when I was inside. I found myself young and incarcerated for something that I didn't do. And my way of surviving kind of rooted in a statement that something that my grandmother said to me the day that I had to turn myself in. And it was, "You let this make you better, not bitter." And that just really resonated with me and stuck with me still all those years that I was incarcerated to this day. But I took it to the next level when I was inside and wanted to leave the prison where I was at a better place as well. And so I connected. I realized that I have this tool, this skill, or this talent, or this gift, whatever you want to call it, inside of me, that I can connect with other people from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of diversities. And I used that when I was inside. I connected with 14 other women, and we actually created an organization inside called the Women's Village. And it was an organization that we used, we harnessed our unique strengths, whether our passions were education or environment or conflict resolution, whatever they may be. And we used these to give back to the institution when they were cutting programs and taking things from us because of budget cuts. We realized that we had these things within ourselves that we could do them ourselves. And so we actually created an organization inside called the Women's Village. Little did I know that that experience would carry with me once I was home. When I came home, again, going back to what I said before, nothing looked like what I thought it would be. The world, the society, the communities that I returned to were not what I had left. I was not the same person. My family was not the same. All these changes I didn't anticipate. And so it was very overwhelming. And I found myself I found the trauma of what had happened to me really setting in, and the survival tactics that I had used inside by connecting with others and creating an organization were all lost to me in those moments that I was released, those first few months. Thankfully, I had a best friend who is an emergency room nurse and an intensive care unit nurse. And I found myself like going into a store and overwhelmed by all the choices, couldn't even shop for my children, couldn't buy them lunches because I was just completely at a loss in the store. And thankfully my friend was able to step in. She saw what was happening on my face, and she stepped in and started just guiding me through the process of re-entering society again. And I realized that we need that. We many of us need that once we're released. And so that is why I have chosen to do this work. I've taken the experience that I did inside. I realized that I have the ability to, especially as a woman, like Anna, there's not many of us in this community. And even though I'm somewhat always out of my comfort zone and feeling like I'm in shoes that are 10 times too big for me, I understand and I recognize that I'm in a unique position to be a voice at the table with my brothers and with my other peers and with my sisters in this world. So with that, Anna, do you have anything that you'd like to add about why you do this work? What makes you passionate about it?
You know, I think I can relate to everybody, and I'm sure everybody can relate to what I'm going to say. But I just want to commend you all because, you know, this is not an easy task that we have taken on. And it's very unselfish of us to continue doing this work, because I know many people that just want to forget the past. And, you know, that's fine. Wherever that person is completely fine. But I think it, you know, says a lot for us to continue this work. And the reason why I do this is, you know, it takes great strength. And as you said, Heidi, get you out of your comfort zone, right? I have been nervous so many times when I am in front of our representatives down at the Capitol. I have been so nervous when I go down to prosecutors' offices, or, you know, sitting even on the Houston Forensic Science Center board. It makes you nervous. It makes you uncomfortable. But I truly believe that it is bigger than me and Ricky and Rodney and Sean and Heidi. It's bigger than all of us. And for us to be so strong to continue on is just kudos. But you know, going back to the why is just, it's something that needs to be said here, guys, that when we get out of this traumatic experience, I think a lot of people believe that, you know, it's black and white. You're out of jail. You should be grateful and move on. But they don't understand the trauma that we suffered. And I know that a lot of us do not want to talk about it and bring it up, but I think it's something that needs to be said here, that we do suffer trauma, and it follows us, and it continues to follow me today, whether it's in relationships, whether it's, you know, anxiety about going and, you know, speaking in front of groups. You know, it's just something to be said. And I just want to be a support person to others as much as I possibly can be. And with that, guys, I'm going to take it into where is it that we do all this work? You know, I want to give a bit of background that the Innocence Project started back in 1992, and it was founded by Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld. And, you know, they're the ones that started this organization. But from there, we have evolved. Now, as of last year at the Innocence Conference, just shortly before, we had included the University of Notre Dame, and that equaled 71 organizations around the world that continue to fight for the wrongfully convicted. And that is so impressive. It wasn't until 2006, the Innocence Project of Texas was founded. And that was founded by Jeff Blackburn and Michael Ware. Michael Ware was the lead attorney in my case. And this man continues to be a fighter of justice. He is passionate about his work. He gives his complete all. But not only do I do it for the organization, just like Ricky had mentioned, you know, being a part of the Houston Forensic Science Center being a part of the San Antonio Crime Coalition Board, I just feel like all these different organizations that I'm a part of here in Texas, that it's just another way of giving back and trying to prevent wrongful convictions. Ricky, can you share anything about where you are and give us a little background information?
I can, Anna. You know, if I could just go back, though, just a few seconds. And if the listening audience could just go back with us for a second, because that why was so important. Why, not just where we do this work, but why we do this work. And people often ask that question. I'm certain all of my colleagues here and others who do this type of work, we are asked, why? Why? And I remember my why connects to May 22nd, 1996, where I lost my freedom. But it also connects to once I was convicted in June of 1997 and sentenced to the Missouri Department of Corrections for life without the possibility of parole. I cried almost every night. And each time I would wipe my eyes and clear my throat, I would find my voice. And so that became my why when I sat inside that 5x7 and I lost my freedom, but found my voice. And that became my why. And my voice began to grow wise. My voice began to grow strong. And as I reintegrated back into society, August 15th, 2019, my voice began to grow loud and far. And I'm often reminded of the time that I was voiceless. And I'm often reminded of those who are still languishing in prisons across this country who remain voiceless. That is a part of our why we do this work. It educates, it informs, and it inspires people not just to act within our criminal legal system, but to act within their own personal lives. Because when they say that, hey, you've been through what you've been through, and you're able to do this, I'm inspired with my own issue that I can do this or I can do that. And so we get to educate, we get to inform, and we get to inspire. And it speaks boldly and strongly as it relates to our why. And then we get to the question of what Anna just asked, where are you doing this work at? And I'm doing this work in the Midwest here. The Midwest Innocence Project make up 5 states: Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and Arkansas. And so we hold down a 5-state region where over 7,000 individuals are believed to be innocent, 100 to 115,000 across the country. But this is where we do that work. We do that work here in the Midwest and across those state lines, but we also do the work inside courtrooms. We also do the work inside prisons. I've gone inside courtrooms again, but I've gone inside prisons to meet with those individuals, preparing them for their release, anticipated release. I've testified before lawmakers, as Anna has shared, and my other colleagues. People ask why. I go inside prosecutors' offices. We go where the problem is. That's where we do this work at, not just in the Midwest, even though we focus on this area, but we do coalitions, we do partnerships, and we'll get on a plane, we'll get in a car, and we'll go wherever the problem is. That's what we do. That's why we do it. And these are the places that we do it at. I want to pass it to my good friend, Rodney, if I can.
As Ricky so eloquently shared his why and what we do and what motivates, and the so many trenches that we have to fight in on the front line, and the why also translates into fighting against injustice, and how this work transcend even nationally, how this work becomes worldwide, how we look at even other countries that have the same problem of wrongful imprisonment, who have the same issue of those who have poorly misrepresented. The why also becomes to help prevent wrongful conviction, like Ricky and all of our colleagues just talked about. It also starts at the grassroots level, where we're in the community now as examples of what happens when you are put through a traumatic situation, survive the trauma, the suffering, find your way out, struggle your way out, come home, struggle to land back on your feet, show your talent, let the best part of you shine, get an opportunity to be a part of a program or organization that you spent time helping to build, that has built itself around the need and force to help free yourself and others, like the Innocence Project. The prevention is also using that example to go back into the community, those who may not understand what the Innocence Project is, those who may not understand why their loved one is saying, I'm innocent, but you in jail. And everybody say that. Those who don't even have a clue to what the law is that protects them, prevent them from going into a courtroom out of fear, taking a plea that they didn't want to plead guilty to. The why is so expansive. The one thing I've always said since I've started this position as the reentry coach in the IP Innocence Project in New York is that I have not met an unkind person yet. And having an opportunity to look behind the veils and see that there's a real love and passion from those who have never experienced it, but the passion and love to fight to help those free themselves is equally as profound and it's equally as necessary. Because when you sit in a prison cell thinking that no one cares, that the world is going on without you, there are people out here fighting to get you out and others. And that becomes the why, to become part of that movement, to become pushing that forward so that the world can see the symbiotic relationship from those who are suffering to get exonerated, uniting with those who also were suffering their own right to fight to get you that out. Because you got to suffer to deal with a prosecutor who has all the power in the courtroom. You have to suffer to get with an unwilling, to fight and stand against an unwilling judge to rule against himself, because judges just don't admit they're wrong. To fight against that in the courtroom is also a suffering, because you have to leave out of there, hold your head up, even though things are not in your favor, even if the evidence show it, but still stand strong. So the why has so many forms, but the real why for us as colleagues is what you see today, us standing together, letting you see what it's like when you can prevail over the odds that's against you and still stand strong and still want to help with others. Because someone told me that he often admire a person who's went through hell but made his way out, but still finds it in their heart to take buckets of water back to those who are still there. And so I would like to give it to my colleague Heidi, who is also a bucket carrier.
Thank you, Rodney. So I am in Washington State. In 1997, Professor Jacqueline McMurtry founded the Washington Innocence Project and was then known as the Innocence Project Northwest. Through the work of our dedicated staff, we have exonerated 15 men and women and freed or secured the freedom of an additional 10. I'm one of them, but our work is long from being done. We are now currently an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization. And I think what I want to talk about why is that relevant? You're probably wondering before I pass it to Sean so he can talk to you about where he's at as well. Where we are matters. Where we are matters. And the reason why we have Rodney in New York, we have Ricky in the Midwest, we have Anna in Texas, and we have Sean in New England, and we have me in Washington, is we all support and encourage each other and the organizations, and we are umbrellaed under the Innocence Network, but we are all independent of each other. And by independent, it means we are financially, and the choices that we make for our organization are all independent of each other. And so where we are matters. And I want to continue to emphasize that. So Sean, do you want to tell us where you are?
Hi, Heidi. Thank you for that. Yeah, so where it is that I do this work and we do this work here is in New England. This work takes us into the classrooms of middle schools and high schools. It takes us into the colleges. And as Vicky said, it takes us back into the courtroom, which for me, and I'm sure all of us, we work through a lot of processes to even step back into a courtroom after having gone through all that we've gone through the criminal legal system. I myself have endured 3 trials and was facing the 4th. And so the courthouse, the work has taken many of us into the state house of our prospective states. And so wherever the work takes us, is where we're gonna go. But I also want to talk about the why, and the why that we do what we do, and it goes back to, I recall myself, Ray and Victor having a conversation, and we were talking about how our experience was when we came home from inside of prison. And we all identified that for the most part, it was those who basically stood by us during the time that we was in prison, and our attorneys. And then we know when people come home from prison, there's people that, come back around for a little while, or they come back around and they stay. But, some of those people came back around and helped out. But there was no help from the people who inflicted the harm. When I was arrested at the age of 19 years old, I was living at home with my mom. At the time, I was staying with my cousin, but I was under my mother's roof. And I was taken away for 22 years. But on my way out of prison, my family had problems finding me housing. They couldn't find me housing, so I had to stay with the pastor of my mother's church. And so there was no help from the people that created the situations that now were having to be confronted. There was the people that inflicted the harm wasn't trying to help me navigate the social systems that exist in order to get DTA, which is formerly known as food stamps, or which we know as welfare. There wasn't doing anything to assist me with job training, because when I was incarcerated, I was limited, very limited, almost to the point of exclusion, where I couldn't engage in vocational programming so that I can get some job training skills. So I didn't have that help once I came home from the people that inflicted the harm. So in the midst of our talking, we realized that okay, we each had some support from our families, friends, and loved ones. But what about the ones of us who are coming after us, our brothers and sisters who are coming after us, that do not have the little bit of support that we each had? What about them? And so at that point, we began having conversations with the executive director of the New England Innocent Project, and the executive of the CBCS Innocent Program, expressing our desire to create a model and infrastructure to be able to help our brothers and sisters who are coming home after us. That was supported, and we continue to move forward. And so that's why That's why it is that we do what we do, because we're directly impacted, and we know and understand that there is nobody that is more qualified. I'll say that again. There is nobody that is more qualified to aiding and assisting an exoneree brother or sister who is coming home other than another exoneree brother or sister. Because although some of us might lack the book knowledge and all that, there is no replacement for the direct experience, the lived experience that we have, that we bring to the table. And so when we come to the table, we don't not sit at the table as subservient to those who we are with at the table, but we sit at the table equally on a level playing field and allow for our voices to be heard. And that's part of the collective impact of wrongful convictions and where we are going in this dispensation of time and where we're trying to move this community to. And with that, I will speak to the how. And I somewhat spoke to the how, but it's one thing that I am so grateful for here in Massachusetts, and the way that we approach this work pertains to the how. Because when we went to the executive director of the New England Innocent Project, the executive of CBCCS, we were received, and we were received equally. And not only were we received equally, there was a clear understanding that we as exonerees, we as those who have been directly impacted, we must be given complete autonomy to do the things that were in the best interest of the exoneree community. So it isn't as though we're being micromanaged and have to kind of report up for decisions to be made. We sit in meeting, we sit in council, and then ultimately it is the exonerees that make the decision that most impacts and affects the exoneree community. And that model has worked. That model has got us to the point to where the state legislator has funded us $250,000 to do this work. But before that happened, it was the people, along with the New England Innocent Project organization, that was funding the work of the exoneree network, and so we're so thankful that that's the model that we're working off of here in New England, and we continue to support our brothers and sisters that work in this capacity, who have gone from client to colleague, and the work that they're doing in their prospective states. And with that, Heidi, I'll pass it to Heidi.
Thank you, Sean. How do we do this work? With the support of our communities. I cannot stress that enough. This work, like Anna mentioned, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of us. So not only do we need the financial support from our communities, we need the emotional and mental support from our communities as well. We need to be invested in, we need to be trusted, we need to be listened to. And we absolutely, like Sean mentioned many times, and Ricky as well, need to be at the table where decisions are being made about freed and exonerated peoples who have been directly impacted by wrongful conviction. The organizations need our voices so that they can expand and become even greater amongst, that they're already great. I think about the how for me, and I kind of want to go back to where I was talking about why it's so important where we are individually. We do this work in our communities. Yes, we collaborate. Yes, we try to create coalitions amongst each other. But at the end of the day, we do our work where we are in our state or in our region or in our communities. We do that with the help of those supported communities. So if you donate to the Innocence Project, you're donating to New York and just New York, so Rodney can do the work that he's doing. If you donate to New England, you're donating to New England and Sean, so he can do the work that he's doing, and so on and so on. I'll let everybody else talk a little bit more about that. But one thing that I do want to emphasize to our communities is we need the support to go beyond just getting people out. Like you've heard us talk about on here, that's just the beginning. The support and the resources that we need after we're released in our communities continues, sometimes forever. The trauma exists. I mean, for me, trauma still exists every day. And it makes, actually talking about my trauma makes it hard to articulate my trauma. I sit here and I realize that I'm amongst giants. And it is truly an honor as I listen to all of my brothers and my sister talk here. But the how of we do this work is being invested in, being trusted, being listened to. And with that, I would like to pass it to Ricky.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As I see that our time is narrowing down together with each other as well as our audience, the question, how do we do this work? We do this work together. That's how we do this work. We do it together as colleagues. We do it together as a community. We do this together as the Innocence Network. That's how we do this work. We do it together. And so for me, I just want to extend a challenge to any of those who are listening. For those who's already within the network, for those which we are already working with, might we continue to do the great work that we've been doing? For those who may have not made up their mind or have yet to decide to get involved, I would like to challenge you today to go to the innocencenetwork.org and look up your local Innocence Project. And once you find it, whether it's one that we represent, each one of us represent here today, or whether it's one outside of the representation on this screen, once you find who your local Innocence Project is, I would challenge you to support, to click donate, to sign up to volunteer, to decide to get involved. And this is just not, for me, it's not a superficial challenge. It's a challenge that brings double reward. It's going to bring reward to the Innocence Project who need the help because that's how we do this work. But it's also going to bring a reward to yourself to know and feel and sense that you get to be a part of such a great task of changing our criminal legal system. I also want to extend another small challenge for you to support not just the innocent projects that we are connected to, but to support each and every individual that's on this screen sharing with you today. Sean is more than just the organization he works for. So is Rodney, so is Heidi, so is Anna, and so is myself. And we have social media platforms where you can come, follow, and support. And sometimes it's not about volunteering. Sometimes it's not about donating. Sometimes it's about following and supporting and engaging the work that we do so that we can remain encouraged and so that we can collectively continue to be empowered. That is my final thought, but I want to get the thoughts of my colleagues as well as we close out. Sean?
Yes, I just wanted to add and offer you to follow the New England Innocent Project and the Exonerating Network on Facebook at New England Innocence and ExoneratingNetwork.org. It's the same across all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And just thank you for your time and attention. And I ask you to be an ambassador for this very important issue of wrongful convictions. It's the epidemic that nobody's talking about.
My final thoughts is more of a quick share. Just imagine yourself in a crowded room And in that crowded room with hundreds of people, and the lights go out, and someone says, "Is there an electrician in the house?" And you hear all these people hollering, "I am, no, I'm the best." Whoever's standing at that fuse box, when them lights come on, that's who electrician is. Because they didn't just talk about it. They got up and did the work to make things happen. Be that electrician.
I think for me, my final thought is, we've talked about the individual regions that we're all serving in, doing this work, this difficult work, but meaningful work. And why, and I think Ricky mentioned earlier, like we also get honored to be a part of this club of staff members with the organizations and the network. And so I think for me, I just want to end on, we're doing this work for the, like Sean said, these exoneree network, right? We want to expand that network. There's states where there isn't a client support coordinator. There's not a community outreach or educator. We want to, the 5 of us now within the organizations and the network, continue to receive the support, to give the support to those who don't have one of us in their state or region, where there's so many exonerees, there's so many free clients, and there's so much need out there. We need to be able to be there and show up for everyone, regardless of whether their organization has the capacity to hire a client support coordinator or not. Thank you, everyone. It was a true honor to be here with you all today.
I agree with that, Heidi. I want to thank everybody that took the time to hear us out and get educated and get fired up about the wrongfully convicted and how we can move forward. If you can go and help your local organization, there's many out there. Again, as Ricky mentioned, you can find it on the Innocence Network and find the local organization. My organization is the Innocence Project of Texas, and there's several ways that you can continue to send in your donations to continue the fight for the wrongfully convicted. Thank you so much for listening in.
Happy wrongful conviction.